Hi, and welcome to S for Science. And did you know that the word sinister comes from the Latin word sinister, which means left? This is so because until recently the left-handed population was seen as something strange and sinister. But why are there left-handed and right-handed people? This is because our brain is divided in two hemispheres, and each one of them controls half of the body in a cross way. This means that the left hemisphere of our brain controls the right part of our body, and vice versa. However, one of the hemispheres is always predominant, and this is usually the left hemisphere, which is why most people are right-handed. Currently, it is estimated that approximately 10% of the world's population is left-handed. You can obtain this number in a more or less approximate way by dividing the number of left-handed people you know by the total number of people you know and multiplying it by 100. Curiously, and without knowing why, the phenomenon is more frequent in men, given that 13% are left-handed, while only 9% of women are. Charles Chaplin, Leo Messi, Napoleon Bonaparte, Barack Obama, Marilyn Monroe, Paul McCartney, Lady Gaga, Leonardo da Vinci, Beethoven, Albert Einstein, all these people are or were left-handed. There are many famous left-handers, and obviously there are also many famous people who are right-handed. However, the proportion of famous left-handers is much higher than might be expected with respect to famous right-handers. There are scientists who argue that this is due to the fact that in left-handed people, the dominant cerebral hemisphere is the right, which is also the one that is related to the faculty of creativity. According to them, this is why left-handers have a better chance of success. So, does this mean that left-handers are more creative? No, absolutely not. Left-handers are simply more likely to be more creative. However, they don't have to be. Interestingly, it has also been found that the percentage of left-handed people who dominate mathematics and music is higher than that of right-handed people. But this does not mean, far from it, that left-handers are better. They are simply more likely to develop some abilities because their brains are structured slightly differently. On the other hand, people who are right-handed have the left hemisphere of their brain dominant. So we tend to develop more the faculties of deduction, logic, and language. As we have seen, in the past they were persecuted since they were seen as something rare. When someone was seen writing with their left hand, they were forced to write with their right hand, and they were quickly turned into learned right-handers. However, there is a small number of people in the world who have the same dexterity in both hands innately. These are the ambidextrous, who represent the 1% of the total world population. The fact of dominating both hands implies that their two cerebral hemispheres are equally dominant, which implies that there is a high probability of a sensory confusion that makes many ambidextrous people able to see sounds and hear colors. So that you understand, in this image that you're seeing right now, a person with this disorder would not see this, but this instead. It is also said that left-handers live on average 9 years less, but is that true? This idea, which is totally false, originated from a study that was carried out in the USA and which was later carried out in other countries, in which the proportion of left-handers was calculated with respect to the proportion of right-handers in two different age groups, young and old. The results indicated that as the age increased, the proportion of left-handers decreased, which determined that they had a shorter life expectancy than right-handers. Specifically, they died 9 years earlier on average. However, this was a mistake. The fact that there were fewer left-handers was due to the repression that existed years ago towards those born left-handed, who were forced to be right-handed. As now this doesn't happen, and who is born left-handed usually remains like that, the proportion came out unequal. So if you're left-handed, you should not fear anything. But I just said who is born left-handed. Are you born left-handed or made left-handed? Several studies have been carried out on pregnant women where it was observed which hand is the one that the fetus used the most during fecundation, in actions such as touching the umbilical cord and putting the thumb in their mouth. And surprisingly, it has been found that the percentage of fetuses that mostly use the left hand is the same as that found in people already born, only 10%. This is very important since it assures us that in most cases there are some exceptions you are born left or right-handed. That is to say, it is something of genetic nature, and it brings us closer to the answer of why there are fewer left-handers than right-handers. It is known that the human genes LRMT1 and PCSK6 are the ones that determine which hemisphere will be dominant in a person. That is, if the person will be right or left-handed. These genes have two alleles. Alleles are each of the alternative forms that each gene can have, having dominant and recessive alleles. If the same person has a dominant and recessive allele of the same gene in their genetic material, they will always show the dominant allele. For you to understand, a very common example is blue and brown eyes. The two colors are two different alleles of the same gene, the one that encodes the eye color that the person will have. The blue allele is recessive in this case, so it's much less frequent. Exactly the same thing happens with the genes that encode whether a person is right-handed or left-handed. In this particular case, the right-handed allele is dominant, while the left-handed allele is recessive. It is for this reason that there are fewer left-handed people, but if the calculations are made, it turns out that approximately 25% of the world's population should be left-handed. And it's not like that. We have seen that left-handers tend to be more creative but less logical people. Is this an advantage or a disadvantage? In today's society, it may be an advantage, but in the past, it was not, since right-handed people tend to have more logical thinking, which was much more advantageous to our distant ancestors. So, in a way, left-handers almost died out. It is for this reason that there are currently so few left-handers. What we don't know is how it will be in the future. Thank you for watching the video, and goodbye.